small competition, even described by a club manager as a small tournament. How do we reconcile this, Andre?
Mr. Leonard, you see, we can talk about the marginalization of Africa and the crisis in Africa and the African Nations Cup that is being threatened to hold or not to hold in Africa, probably due to so many issues that we can cite and maybe some that we may not be able to cite. You see, but at the end of the day, we may want to maybe blame our leaders for not being very strong in taking strong decisions to defend their own interest in Africa. But at the end of the day, we do not have anything. We seem to be depending on them for everything, and that is the major challenge. When they are the ones to call the shots, when they are the ones to set in the rules and regulation, right up to how you elect your own president in your own country. And I keep saying, if you allow others to appoint presidents for you and you expect such presidents to make your life better, that's another definition of a fool. Because if you as Africans or as Cameroonians are unable to set their own systems on how to produce their own leaders that will reflect the demands of their own society, it means that you are just, at the end of the day, the problem is not the leaders, the problem is the people. Because the people have refused to assume their responsibility, assume their position, and assume assume a position of accountability and responsibility. If you allow, like I keep saying, Mr. Leonard, we will talk here all day. We will blame one another, blame leaders, blame the West and all of this, but it still comes back to say that if you look at the percentage of those that we are blaming as leaders, they fall within 3.3% of the entire population of Africa. So are you now telling us that over 97% of African population have no sense of responsibility of coming together and changing structures and building systems that can reflect their own values and their own identity? That is where the challenge is. We all depend. When the UN says is democracy, democracy is more damaging in Africa than COVID. Africa has 5,000 medical plans which are discovered in Africa alone, which means that we are capable of handling any kind of variant that will come even in the next 2,100. Africa is capable of handling. But democracy is far damaging and destructive in Africa than COVID.
More than COVID.
Because we can handle COVID. We don't have a challenge here with COVID. We have researchers, we have people who have come out with cure for COVID, which we know. So we do not have that challenge with COVID. So COVID should not be a pretext for any African leader to allow foreign decision to be applied in Africa. These things are very important for us to consider. We should judge these things very wisely. So to me, I think that we have failed as a people and as a nation collectively on how we as a people can come together on the basis of our common problem, because our problems are common. Whether you are in Nigeria, you are in South Africa, you are in Mozambique, you are in Ethiopia, you are in Cameroon. You can use the case of Ethiopia and analyze what is happening in Cameroon. It is all the same. I think somebody made a comment there who is in UK and said we should stop blaming the white man. No. At one point, some people may think that it is true. Let me tell you something. I keep saying that if people will say we should not blame the West for the condition of Africa today, I will agree with them if the West was not in Africa. It's in UK. Why UK is in Cameroon? UK is in Africa. It's in Europe. The entire EU is sitting on AU.
Yes.
Russians are in Africa. Americans are in Africa. It's like you are visiting a man who is at your own home. So you cannot keep it's like in those days, we used to have people who are possessed with demonic spirits. They killed them in order to send away those spirits, but they come to realize that the spirit leaves one body and enters another body. So there was now a new spiritual understanding that came that you can cast out those demons and the person can come back to his senses. That is the situation we are facing in Africa. The presence of the multinationals in Africa is what is causing this, what I call structural adjustment policies. Their hands are tied. Why? If, for example, a country like Cameroon is owing, let's say, 100 billion, and you are unable to pay, and they tell you that this is what you want us to do, what do you expect the head of state to do? He's forced to abide by what they are telling him because he has submitted himself through debts and loans. Is it not the same thing we saw here with this breach here in Douala? 120 billion went to France. France gave it to China for 80 billion. And then China now gave it to Cameroon to something lesser than 80 billion. This is what we are talking about. Pardon? That is what I'm trying to say, that these are structures which were set in place by default in the beginning to indebt Africa. Because if you want to control somebody, you need to put the person at the condition in which you leave the person with no choice. And that is where we are. So it is us. That is why I keep saying that change in Africa will never come from the level of this leadership. It will only come from the masses. We saw in Mali what is difficult for Africans to rally, like how the Malians rally and brought out an administration which has destroyed that country for 25 years under a democratic system. We don't need, I keep repeating, this democratically elected president. They are doing us no good in Africa because these are rules and regulations set by the UN on how we should go indirectly to go and appoint leaders. We don't want this kind of system. We want to be able to see leaders that will grow them up like seeds from the ground. We can water them. They are submissive. They are obedient. We can do checks and balance, but not those that come from the sky like goats and spirits. We are unable to control them. But rather, it is the West that seeks to control them. And their decision which they try to take is always at the detriment of the African people. We need to take a different route here. That is the way I look at it.
That's the way you look